Homeless blind man saved a crying baby in the rain. When the billionaire called him useless trash, he revealed a secret tattoo that shook the nation. Lagos rainy season had no idea what gentle meant. The sky looked like someone had punched a hole in it, and filthy water, mixed with dust, the stench of rotting garbage, came crashing onto every rusted tin roof, every muddy inch of mud lane. Thunder exploded overhead, shaking the shacks patched together with rags, plastic sheets, and splintered wood. Floodwater had already crept past the doorsteps of the lowest houses, murky and thick, bubbling with dead rats and rotten vegetables, flowing freely through the narrow alleys with a sickening gurgle. The power had been out for hours, and the whole of Mud Lane was drowning in a thick, suffocating darkness, swallowed by the endless drumming of rain. At the broken-down bus stop at the end of the alley, Adu curled into himself. Layers of rags, so dirty you couldn't tell their original color. Relay shielded him from the storm. Water poured off the broken edges of the shelter's roof, soaking half his body. He was blind, his world was made of sounds, smells, touch, and memory. Right now, that world was nothing but rain, the sharp smack of drops on metal, the rush of water over dirt, distant thunder, and the muffled curses and sobs of neighbors whose homes were flooding. He could see the cold bite of the rain, see the damp, moldy stench in the air, see the ground beneath him turning soft, ready to collapse. Adu was around 50, but life had aged him beyond that. His eyes had shut forever when he was 12, after a vicious bout of malaria. No parents, no family, he survived by listening to the news. Someone would read the paper to him, and he'd sing the stories back in Yoruba, his rough voice rhying an odd, rhythmic lilt running him a few coins or half a loaf of bread. Most days, though, he just sat silent in a corner, like a forgotten stone. The neighbors called him Blind Adu, sometimes with pity, but mostly with indifference. Every now and then, some young troublemaker would kick over his begging bowl, call him useless baggage or street trash, then run off laughing. Adu never fought back. He'd just feel around for the scattered coins and curl up again. Tonight, all he wanted was to survive this cursed storm. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, and the cold made his teeth chatter. He tried to remember the lullaby his daughter Adeniyi used to sing when she was little. Her Clea, our voice used to ease the pain. But all that came to mind was her broken sobs the night before her wedding, and the silk scarf he'd embroidered for her with a K. The memory sent a sharp stab through his chest. Just as exhaustion and cold were about to pull him under, a sound, tiny but stubborn, pierced through the roar of the rain and found his ears. Wah. Not an adult crying. Not a cat or dog. A baby, a tiny, helpless baby, screaming for help in the middle of this nightmare storm. Adu jerked upright, all sleepiness and cold blasted away. The cry was so faint it could vanish any second, broken and weak, full of terror. It was coming from deep in the alley, the open gutter that always clogged and stank like death. God above his heart clenched. Who in Mud Lane would leave a baby out in this? It was murder. Without thinking, he forced himself up from the wet ground, fumbling for his worn bamboo cane, his lifeline. No hesitation. He pushed into the storm, leaning into the wind, stumbling through the downpour. Mud sucked at his ankles, every step like wading through ice-cold glue. Rain lashed his face, soaked through his clothes. He didn't see Every sense was locked onto that tiny cry. He listened, tapped his cane, dodged trash and pits. The sound faded in and out each time it stopped. His stomach dropped, fearing the worst. There it was again, closer now. Right by the gutter, Adu hurried, tripped, his knee slamming into something. Road pain shot up his leg. He ignored it, crawling four-way road freezing, stinking water soaked his pants. His hands hit something wet and lumpy, a pile of trash. The cry was coming from the edge of it. Shaking, he dug through the cold, slimy mess. Plastic bags, rotten food, broken glass, then his fingers brushed something soft. Too soft. He jerked back, then reached again. Fabric, wet, wrapped around something. Ruefully, he pulled back the garbage, lifting out a soaked bundle. Light, but inside, something small, trembling. He tore open the plastic, then the wet cloth inside. A baby. A newborn girl. Ice cold, lips blue, her tiny face scrunched up, every weak cry taking all her strength. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. My little lamb, his heart twisted. A pain deeper than anything he'd ever felt. Without thinking, he peeled off the driest layer of his own ragged shirt, pressing the baby against his chest, wrapping her tight in the cloth. He could feel her faint heartbeat like a candle in the wind. Don't be SCA red, don't be SCA red, grandpa's here, he whispered in rough, Yoruba mixed English, patting the bundle clumsily but gently. Adu's taking you away from this hell. Gripping his cane, shielding the baby, he turned Tawa RD the clinic, at least, where he remember at it being. Every step was a fight. The weight in his ARMS made his weak body ache, the mud tried to swallow his feet, the wind NEARLY knocked him over. He relied on his cane and RS of memorizing every rock, every hole in this alley. The rain blinded him even more, but he saw RLY, the tiny spa arcade in his ARMS was his only light now. Then, as he adjusted the bundle, his fingers brushed something stiff in the soaked cloth. A small, waterlogged SQUA. He pried it loose, tucked it into his pocket. A corner of a CARD, the ink smudged. He couldn't see it, but his fingers traced the letters, Kingsley, a phone number, like a weak bolt of lightning, cutting through the fog of his daughter's memory. The rain finally showed signs of stopping, but the sky remained RK as soaked ink, the heavy clouds pressing down on the crooked roofs of Mud Lane. Adu trudged through the mud, clutching the bundle in his ARMS. The tiny life inside seemed to have used up the last of its strength. The crying had stopped completely, leaving only the faintest whisper of breath against his BA chest. This silence terrified him more than the wailing had. He had to move faster, faster. The community clinic, a BA Relay functioning place run by a few overworked doctors and nurses, was his only hope. Adu, is that you, God? What are you doing out in this mess? A familiar voice called from the alley's entrance. It was Amina, the woman who sold fried bean cakes. She was struggling to cover her stall with plastic sheets. Amina, help me. Adu's voice was Hoa RSA, panting. I found a baby, she's freezing. Take me to the clinic. Please. Amina rushed over when she saw the bundle in his RMS. She could feel the baby's icy skin, smell the stench of mud and damp clinging to Adu. Quick, quick. Lean on me. She abandoned her stall, half dragging Adu as they stumbled Tower RD, the low brick building at the other end of the alley, its faded Red Cross BA Relay visible. Inside the clinic, dim yellow light flickered over a few patients huddled on benches. The moment Adu, soaked, reeking of mud and garbage, a blind beggar burst in clutching a dripping wet baby, the air froze. Every eye locked onto him, filled with shock, disgust, and a quiet, unspoken disdain. Adu Nurse Faye recognized him instantly, her face twisting in irritation. Not you. Again. This isn't a shelter. Get out. Your SCA, ring the patients. Nurse, please. Adu begged, thrusting the bundle four-way road. This baby, found her in the rain, she's dying. Help her. Faye recoiled, pressing a handkerchief to her nose. Ugh. What is that smell? A blind man who can't even feed himself, picking up some stray child. You're just making trouble. Put it down. We don't take in abandoned babies. Faye, look at the child first. Amina snapped. She's freezing to death. This is life or death. Grudgingly, after protests from Amina and murmurs from the other patients, Faye took the bundle, roughly checking the baby. When she felt the faint pulse, surprise flickered across her face, but it vanished just as fast. Oof, tough little thing. Put her in the incubator. The doctor can deal with it tomorrow. Adu, get out. You're in the way. She waved a trainee nurse over to take the baby, not even glancing at Adu again. Adu was shoved out the clinic doors. The cold night air cut through his soaked rags. He slumped against the wall, listening to the faint hum of machines inside, his chest hollow. He didn't know if little Kemi, he was sure that was her name, would make it. All he wanted was to stay close, to hear something. So he curled up on the steps like a disque ride statue, letting the wind and leftover drizzle whip at him. He spent the night there, watching the clinic lights flicker, listening to coughs and whispers inside. Over and over, he whispered his daughter's name, praying the tiny life would hold on. By dawn, his fingers found the soggy corner of that CARD in his pocket, tracing Kingsley and the smudged number. A DRK, painful suspicion coiled in his gut. The next afternoon, when Amina brought him a bowl of hot soup, chaos erupted at the clinic's entrance. A sleek black SUV, like a beast, crashed into the narrow space outside, splashing mud onto any ARBY stalls. The door swung open, and out stepped a man in a crisp white linen suit, gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, skin too smooth for the roughness of mud lane. Two hulking bodyguards flanked him. Kingsley Akubo. The rising Tycn of Lagos East's mining and real estate, known for his ruthless deals and worship of money. Right now, his face was all smug certainty. Where's the doctor now? Kingsley's voice boomed, a command, not a request. I heard you have a foundling here, my niece. Inside, nurse face scrambled four-way RD, her voice suddenly sweet. Mr. Kingsley. What an honor. Yes, a baby girl, just stabilized. Take me to her. Now. He shoved past her. Adu, still on the steps, he urged commotion. His stomach dropped. That voice, even after 20 years, he'd never forget it. The arrogance, the power in every syllable. Kingsley, the man who'd ruined his life. He lurched up, trying to force his way inside, but a bodyguard shoved him. Back. Get lost, blind trash. Out of the way. Inside, Kingsley lifted Kemi from the incubator, the baby whimpering weakly. He put on a show for the gathering crowd and reporters, sighing dramatically. Poor child. Uncle's here now. You're coming home, no more suffering. He turned to leave. Stop. That's my granddaughter. Adu's scream tore from his throat, raw with fury. He lunged four-way RD, but the bodyguards pinned him. The deep blue tattoo on Adu's arm was like a boulder dropped into still water, sending shockwaves through Lagos. Kingsley Akubo's pale, stammering panic, caught on camera, went viral. His attempt to snatch baby Kemi, his slurs against Adu, all of it, alongside the tattoo, exploded online. #find Kemi and #blind Adu truth shot to the top of trends. Kingsley's PR team scrambled, calling Adu mentally ill, aliar begging for sympathy, but the old doctor's testimony about the tattoo's authenticity, plus Mud Lane's elders' STA rooting to remember what happened to Adu's family, made his spin look desperate. Under pressure, Lagos state officials had to act. A special investigator arrived in Mud Lane officially to look into Kemi's custody and Kingsley's alleged kidnapping, but really to quiet things down. Meanwhile, the courts ordered a DNA test, proof of Adu's grandfatherhood. Results would take days. This brief calm before the storm became the moment Adu's sealed memories burst open. With help from neighbors, Adu was given a clean room in the community elder's house. Young journalist Ifede Kinbala, unlike the others who just snapped photos, sat quietly beside him, recorder in hand. Grandpa Adu, she said, Iza Ernest, your story matters. Tell me everything. For Kemi. For all the forgotten. Her sincerity loosened the knot in Adu's chest. He needed to speak. So, under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp, Adu's raspy voice ride them back 25 years. Back then. He began, voice distant, I wasn't blind Adu. I was Adu Adeniyi, a Wukairver. Lived at Mud Lane, house 37. Small but sturdy. Had a family plot, not big, but with good ebony trees. My carvings a flicker of pride. Yoruba gods, wedding boxes, masks telling old tales. Fed me. Fed my daughter Adeniyi. He described her bright-eyed, Wa-RM smiled, skilled with her hands. Helped him sandwood, sang away the workshop's gloom. In love with Olu, a poor but good fisherman. They dreamed of a Yoruba wedding. Then Kingsley came, Adu's voice keened. Wasn't rich yet, just a greedy trader eyeing others' land. Wanted my plot for cheap housing. I refused. Money can't buy roots, I said. Kingsley's greed turned vicious. Bribed thugs to plant stolen fabric in Olu's fishing kit. Next day, cops in dirty uniforms dragged Olu away for theft. Adu and Adeniyi pleaded, got kicked aside. Olu was beaten, Adu's fingers brushed his hollow eyes. Sent to Northern Mines. Gone. Adeniyi's heart broke. But Kingsley wanted more, Adeniyi and the land. Offered to take her as a second wife, polygamy still lingered then, promising to spare her father. An insult. They refused. That night, Adu's voice dropped to a whisper. Kingsley came back. More men. More cops. Said we stirred trouble. They beat me. His body shook violently. Sticks, so many. My head. My eyes. Adeniyi screaming, he clawed at his face. They laughed. Blind men don't see daughters stolen. Blood. Everywhere. Then de RK, forever. Ifes TRS fell silently. She gripped Adu's calloused hands. I woke under this bus stop. Adeniyi, gone. A blind beg AR now. He rode. She had a girl, Kemi, then nothing. Probably dead in that gilded cage. Adu's TRS dripped onto his rags. The tattoo Ifa whispered. Adu exhaled. The night before they took her. Moon was bright. She cried in my ARMS. I begged her to remember me. Gave her an old SCARF soda K for Kemi, worthy of praise. Then he rolled up his sleeve, touching the Edan. I went to a kinku, the tattoo master. Paid my last coins. A kinku, I said, even blind, this ma RK will remember. I'm Adeniyi's father. I have a granddaughter, Kemi. Kingsley owes blood. He cried, but he revet it. My last act as a father, my last dignity. Silence. Ife sobbed. Then, the door creaked open. The elders stepped in with a frail, cane-supported old man. Adu, he's here. A kinku. The one who inked you. The tattoo master trembled in, eyes locked on Adu's ARM. Brother, I knew the evil done to you. I stayed silent, afraid of Kingsley, but I testify. This ma RK mine. Done September 15, 1998. In my backyard. The ink, the style, all me. And he pulled out a tiny, oil paper wrapped notebook. I kept records. The truth, like floodwaters after rain, couldn't be stopped. Adu's pain was now Mud Lane's pain, Lagos pain. And Kingsley Akubo, though. Billionaire who'd called Adu useless trash, his empire, built on theft, was crumbling under the weight of a blind man's skin. The storm wasn't coming. Kingsley turned, his gaze sliding over Adu like he was roadkill. He smirked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, the blind beg AR. He waved a hand in front of his nose, as if Adu stank. You, with your filthy hands, dread to touch my niece Kingsley. He shook his head, laughing. Disgusting. A useless, society's trash blind man. A leech who can't even feed himself. And you think you have any right to my family? Pathetic. Every word was a knife. Adu trembled, not from cold, but from rage, from decades of humiliation, from losing his daughter, from the terror for Kemi's life. His blood ROA red in his EARS. Then, he moved. Twisting free from the Bodigu ARD's grip. They hadn't expected fight in a blind beg AR. He read up, and in the clear rest, strongest Yoruba he'd ever spoken, he ROA read, Kingsley. If you touch her, will you answer for the blood on the KSCARF? The crowd gasped. Kingsley froze. His polished mask cracked, just for a second, his eyes widening behind those gold glasses. For the first time, he truly saw Adu. And in that moment, Adu knew he'd struck bone. For a single, frozen second, time stopped on Kingsley's face, his shock so raw it silenced the crowd. Outside the clinic, every-eyed reporters, cameras, curious onlookers, nurse face stunned gaping, the Bodigu ARD's tension locked onto Adu, the soaked, skeletal blind beg AR. His Yoruba accusation had sliced through Kingsley's arrogance like lightning. The KSCARF blood, Kingsley's voice cracked, just a fraction, losing its usual iron control. He clutched baby Kemi tighter, his movements stiff. You're raving. Mad, get this lunatic out of here. He bearcaded his guardias. The Bodigu ARDS lunged, yanking Adu's ARMS, dragging him back. Adu didn't resist. But his blind eyes, somehow, pierced Kingsley's direction. His body shook, yet his voice was steady, a quiet, 25-year-old volcano finally erupting. Kingsley Akubo. Do you remember 1998, rainy season, Mud Lane, House 37? You framed my son-in-law Olu for theft to steal my family's CA Irving land. You paid the police to beat me blind. You took me daughter Adeniyi as your concubine. Do you remember? Every word was a hammer. The crowd gasped. 1998 stolen daughter blinded old whispers in Mud Lane, never spoken aloud until now. Until this useless trash of a blind man named the crime. Kingsley's face twisted, shocked to fury, his polished mask crumbling. He shoved Kemi at a sta riled nurse, jabbing a finger at Adu, voice shrill, lies. Filthy lies, arrest him. Slander. Public disturbance. And give me that child, she's my niece. Then Adu moved. He wrenched free, the bodyguards, distracted by the crowd, loosened their grip. And in front of everyone, reporters, nurses, the whole damn street, he slowly, deliberately, rolled up his left sleeve. Mud and rainwater SMEA read away. Beneath, on his RK, weathered skin, RK. Deep blue. Unmistakable. An Edan, the ancient Yoruba Gwardian symbol. Interlocking lines, a sacred circle at its CRT. And beneath it, 3 small, inked words, Kemi's dad. Silence. Cameras flashed. The crowd sucked in air. Even Nurse Faye's mouth hung open. The bodyguards froze mid-grab. Kingsley, a Cubo billionaire, Tiwaisian, untouchable, staggered. His face drained white. His glasses slipped. His lips trembled, soundless. That name. That RK. The shame he'd buried, the past he'd bought into silence, read into the skin of the man he'd called Garbage. Adu's voice, low and terrible, cut through the quieter. This child, he said, blind eyes somehow finding Kemi, is Kemi. My blood. 25 years ago, your family stole me daughter Adeniyi like livestock. This SCARF, his shaking fingers dug into his rags, pulling out the torn, embroidered case scrap from the baby's bundle. And this RK, the last thing I gave her. The night before you took her. For her. For Kemi. My proof. The words detonated. A blind beggar branded with truth. Not trash. A father. A grandfather. His Edan wasn't just ink, it was defiance. A blade through Kingsley's lies. You, Kingsley choked, finger quivering, fake. It's fake. Anyone can get a tattoo. That SCARF means nothing. Mr. Kingsley. The clinic's elder doctor, a respected Yoruba man, stepped 4-way road. His voice was grave. This Edan, the lines, the dye, it's old. Very old. The handiwork of a Kinku, the lane's last true tattoo master. And Kemi's dad, that lettering hasn't been used in decades. A fake impossible. The final blow. Cameras exploded. Phones buzzed. Hashtag blind Adu. Hashtag tattoo truth. Hashtag Kingsley scandal, spreading through Lagos like wildfire. A story of power, stolen lives, blindness, memory and skin that remembered. And at the center, Adu. Still standing. Arm raised. The Edanda RK against his skin, he couldn't see the crowd's shock, the reporter's frenzy, Kingsley's crumbling mask. But he heard it. He felt it. 25 years. And now justice. Not just for him. For every useless person Kingsley had ever crushed. The RK on his RM wasn't just proof. It was a war cry. Old tattoo master a Kinku's sudden appearance, and that oil paper wrapped notebook, were like throwing gasoline on a fire. On camera, a Kinku, TRS streaming, pointed out every detail of the Edan, the special ink mix, plant ash and minerals, his signature deep poke technique for permanence, even remembering Adu's desperate, ironclad plea, Irv that I'm Adeniyi's father. His yellowed ledger provided, September 15, 1998. Adu Adeniyi. Left ARM Edan plus Kemi's dad. Fee, 5 Nigerian Nairas. A fortune back then. This irrefutable evidence, spread by Ife's viral posts, shattered Kingsley's last defense. Online fury exploded. Hashtag Kingsley is a murder ran. Hashtag Justice Farada flooded timelines. Kingsley Group's stock plummeted. Kingsley panicked. No longer the untouchable TYCN, but a cornered animal. He held a press conference, suit crisp, voice shaking, I'm the victim here. A mad beggar's lies, a dying man's delusions, and media lies, to ruin me I demand a forensic tattoo test. And I will sue for slander. his eyes de route. No calm left. He paid trolls, spun DNA pending, and Edu's insane. But the people weren't buying it. Meanwhile, Inspector Aliawa, the special investigator, returned to Mud Lane. Officially, to update Edu, DNA sent to the lab, results in 7 to 10 days. Unofficially, his voice was cold, his steps too light. Worse, his protection, 2 cops posted outside Edu's door, was surveillance. Cutting Edu off from Ife, from supporters. Kingsley's reach went deep. Edu felt isolated. Blind, but he ringed the tension. Neighbors pitied him, but Fia read Kingsley's wrath. Even baby Kemi, allowed to stay with him under Gwa RD, fussed more than usual. Edu sang old Yoruba lullabies, voice thick with worry. Grandpa, don't Fia R. Ife's voice. She'd slipped past the cops. Eyes red but blazing. Edu Grandpa, your words, I recorded everything. Akinku's videos everywhere. Kingsley's breaking. Ife at Edu's side. But those cops like a prison. I know. She clenched her fists. They're stalling. Waiting for the storm to pass or to fake the DNA. We can't wait. You said Adeniyi's letters stopped. And Olu, the framed fisherman, they're key witnesses. Living proof. Edu's heart jumped. Yes. Adeniyi's friend Aila once sent word she did Kemi but was suffering. And Olu's brother Adebayo mentioned Olu fled to Ghana if they could be found, but Edu laughed bitterly. I'm blind. Can't leave this alley. Aila ma ride. To Benin City. Adebayo hates him for Olu's death. Leave it to me. Ife's voice was steel. I'm a reporter. I've got a car, a phone, the internet. Tell me everything. Aila's husband's name, the street, Adebayo's last spot, Olu's mine, any clue. I'll find them. For days, Edu became Ife's living map. His razor sharp memory gave her fragments. Aila's husband, Obafemi, Wukeirver, Near Benin's Red Earthma get. Adebayo, last seen at Lagos Stone Beach docks. Olu, exiled to Jos Tin Mines. Each scrap, Ife chased like gold. Her hunt was brutal. In Benin City, doors slammed in her face. At Stone Beach, fishermen shrugged. Jos mines were dangerous. Spotty signal. She ran out of cash, slept in her car, but kept going. Her articles raw, real showed Lagos underbelly, struggle, resilience, Kingsley's shadow. People rallied behind her. Then, breakthrough. In a dusty Benin workshop, she found Obafemi. At Adeniyi's name, the old man wept. His wife Aila had gotten letters, Adeniyi had Kemi, then silence. Aila died sick, begging to find her niece. Obafemi handed over a faded letter scrap, Adeniyi's handwriting, a faint K. Next, Adebayo. At Stone Beach, a grizzled fisherman led her to his hut. At first, he spotted Edu's name, blaming him for Olu's fate. But when Ife showed the identity photo, Adebayo broke. Olu had been sent to Jos Mines, then fled to Ghana, dead years ago in some clinic, lungs ruined. His last words, Adeniyi, 2 critical chains. Adeniyi forced into Mariage, vanished after Kemi's birth. Olu framed, tortured, died exiled. This living testimony, with Edu's scars, Akinku's ledger, the coming DNA, was a noose tightening around Kingsley's neck. The storm wasn't about is Edu lying anymore. It was how will Kingsley pay, and Kingsley locked in his hilltop mansion, watching his empire burn. On his phone, he ringed the crash of his stocks, finally felt real fear. The useless trash blind man, with his sightless eyes and skinsier memory, was dragging him down. Ife's testimonies were bombs, blowing apart Kingsley Akubo's last defenses. Adebayo's tearful account of Olu's exile and death, Obafemi's tattered, blood-stained letter, no longer rumors, but irrefutable proof of Kingsley's crimes. Through Ife's reporting, they spread like wildfire, igniting national fury. People weren't just pitying Edu now, they were enraged at the corruption, the impunity, the systemic destruction of a family. Demands to arrest Kingsley and investigate the cops exploded. Kingsley's PR team collapsed. At his second press conference, reporters hammered him, explain Olu's exile. Where's Adeniji? Did you abuse police power? He stammered. Trust the legal process, sweat dripping, his arrogance gone. He tried pressuring investigators, but public outrage was a wall, his influence crumbling. Even Inspector Alyawa's face grew tense. His protective cops now glanced around, nervous. But in Mud Lane, a different world. Adu, still under protective custody, had never felt stronger. Ife's news Adeniji did have Kemi, Olu's tragic sacrifice, broke his heart, but also brought closure. He wasn't alone anymore. Elders formed a Gua Road Adu volunteer circle, sitting outside his hut, silently defying the cops. Kids sneaked him fruit. Amina brought hot soup daily. Adu had become Mud Lane's symbol of dignity. Grandpa Adu. Ife burst in, breathless. The DNA lab preliminary results a re-in. 99.999% match. Official report drops tomorrow. Kingsley's finished. Adu stroked sleeping Kemi's head, smiling softly. Ife, thank you. You made these blind eyes see hope. Yet one thorn remained, Adeniyi's fate. Aila's letter said she was not well, then silence. Did she die in Kingsley's mansion or Adu needed to know? For Adeniyi. For Kemi. Ife, he whispered, find her. Where's her grave? Let me mourn her. Ife knew this would be the rightest. Kingsley would never reveal Adeniyi's fate, especially if it proved his cruelty. The only lead, the Oasis, Kingsley's private estate deep in the Niger Delta. Hebaligwe ride. So Ife went undercover. No direct assault. Instead, she hunted for ex-servants, drivers, giardiniers, and Yanuhod worked at the Oasis. A needle in a haystack. Most were too SCA Reto talk. Others had vanished. Then a break. An old community doctor led her to Nkosi, a retired Delta nurse. At Adeniyi's name, Nkosi's eyes flashed pain, rage, fear. Adeniyi. Nkosi's voice dropped. Poor child. Kingsley locked her at the Oasis. Like a bird with clipped wings. She cried daily, missing her father, her Olu. After Kemi's birth, she collapsed. Kingsley's witch of a mother tormented her, lowborn, weak. She got tuberculosis. Ife's stomach twisted. Then Nkosi wiped Trs. Kingsley threw her out, too sickly, bad luck. Left her in a shack behind the estate to die. I snuck in sometimes. She was skin and bones, coughing blood. But all she read about Kemi. Nurse, she begged, if I die, get Kemi to my father. His eyes, gone for me. Don't let her lose her roots, I promised, but Kingsley's men I failed her. Her grave. Nkosi's face hardened. No grave. Wrapped in straw, dumped in thorn bushes behind the shack. Fit for trash, Kingsley said. Neara, a crooked mango tree. Ife recorded every word. This was Adeniyi's final chapter, Kingsley's ultimate sin. Not just theft, not just violence, slow, cruel torture till death, then desecration. She wrote it all in Nkosi's testimony, the DNA's imminent release, into a bombshell report. But instead of publishing, she sent copies to the chief prosecutor and top newspaper editors. Then, the storm hit. The official DNA report, Adu and Kemi, 99.999% match. Scientific proof. Kingsley's lie shattered. Simultaneously. Ife's article dropped, Thorns of the Oasis, a forgotten daughter's lament. Nkosi's words, Adeniyi's plea, Kingsley's atrocities exposed. The nation erupted. Protests SWA remed Kingsley Group's HQ. His empire crumbling. Kingsley Akubo stood at his mansion's window, watching the crowds, the police lights, ring accounts frozen, deals cancelled, his family panicking, and collapsed onto his Persian rug. He was finished. The useless trash blind man with a tattoo, a memory, and an unbreakable will had not just reclaimed his granddaughter. He dragged a king into the abyss. In Adu he finally knew where his daughter lay. But the answer was heavier than any stone. The DNA results in Ife's explosive Thorns of the Oasis report were like two knockout punches, obliterating Kingsley Akubo's empire of lies. Science and testimony, fused together, left no room for excuses. Lagos, no, all of Nigeria, erupted. Protests SWA remed streets. Calls for Kingsley's Arrests didn't just come from the poor now, business leaders, academics, even politicians joined the chorus. No one could stomach a criminal masquerading as a TYCN anymore. The pressure was physical. Kingsley Group's stock tanked in days. Banks froze his accounts. Construction sites turned to ghost towns as foreigners fled. His once bustling offices empty. Employees cut in droves. He tried moving money overseas, but anti-money laundering agencies blocked every path. Then came the law. With irrefutable evidence and nationwide fury, Nigeria's anti-corruption agency, ICPC, and police criminal unit, DCI, formed a special task force untouchable by Kingsley's old bribes. They moved fast. Arresting Kingsley, on day 3 after the DNA report, Met police stormed his hilltop mansion. Kingsley, pale, shaking, collapsed as cuffs snapped on his wrists. Ridge's kidnapping. Fraud. False imprisonment. Obstruction of justice, straight to Abuja's high security. Detention. Reopening old cases, the 1998 Olu theft frame-up and Adu's blinding were officially reinvested. Corrupt cops, one now a superintendent, were named. Under interrogation, they broke, admitting Kingsley paid them to beat Adu blind and exile Olu to die. Suspended. Ridged. Done. Exposing the baby scheme, why steal Kemi? The truth was monstrous. Turns out, when Kingsley forced Adeniyi into marriage, his family made her sign secret papers, giving her future children symbolic rights to oil-rich Delta land coveted. Kemi was a threat. So when he heard of a baby with his disc A right Kingsley name tag in the rags, he panicked. What if it's her? His plan: steal Kemi. Erase her identity. Bury the threat. He never expected her grandfather to be Adu, the useless trash with a tattoo that torpedoed his scheme. In the interrogation room, Kingsley crumbled. Evidence from 25 years of crimes, violence, abandonment, kidnapping, was laid bare. His arrogance evaporated. Just a shivering rich man now, begging for settlements. But when investigators slapped down Kosi's testimony, Adeniyi's UNMA ked graven thorns, his face twitched. Fear or shame. Disgust. He confessed mostly. Still blamed his dead mother for RSH traditions. Meanwhile, Adu's life turned. With DNA proof and public raggy on his side, police dropped his protective custody. Mud Lane elders officially petitioned courts. Adu equals Kemi's sole guardian. The judge, seeing Adu's blood right, Kemi's attachment to him, and community support, ruled immediately. Kemi was his, legally. Finally. Mud Lane exploded with joy. Amina ked feasts. Kids touched Adu's idanta too, giggling. Adu, blind but seeing more than ever, held Kemi close, humming Adeniyi's lullaby. His voice, rough but peaceful, ride through the cheers. After 25 years of pain, but one fire still burned in Adu's heart. Adeniyi. Ife had given him Kosi's account, the crooked mango tree. The thorns. The straw-wrapped body. He stroked Kemi's cheek, voice iron steady. Ife. Take me to the oasis. I'm bringing Adeniyi home. Ife nodded. No revenge. Just justice. She'd already contacted investigators, official witnesses, for exhuming Adeniyi's remains. Not just for Adu. For history. For closure. So, Kingsley rotted in a cell, listening to his empire collapse. And Adu holding his granddaughter, surrounded by love, preparing to bring his daughter home. The storm had passed. The healing just begun. The Oasis estate, once Kingsley Akubo's gaudy monument to wealth and power, right by walls, bed wire, and Ahmed thugs, now stood rotting. Cameras dangled broken. Gates rusted shut. Weeds choked dry fountains. Like a tomb for the rich. When the convoy arrived, Adu, Ife, forensic teams, federal investigators, the last RDS had fled. The lead investigator, grim-faced, led them past dead Rdens to the thorn-choked hillside. Behind the estate. Adu, leaning on his cane, guided by Ife, moved slowly. Not from weakness, but 25 years of grief and hope, finally reaching its end. He couldn't see decay, but he earth wind through thorns, smelled damp felt the uneven ground. Grandpa Adu, Ife whispered, we're here. There's a crooked mango tree ahead. Forensic teams swept the array with metal detectors, ground rata. Our silence stretched. Adu stood rigid, knuckles white on his cane. Aoife felt him tremble. Then a beep. A technician knelt, brushing dirt. Rotted straw. Then bones. Found her. Adu jolted, nearly collapsing. Aoife caught him. He sank to his knees, calloused hands hovering over the remains, touching the straw, the cold fragments. A tear fell into the dirt. Adeniyi, his voice was raw. My girl, Papa's taking you home. Forensics CA refully gathered the remains into a plain wooden box. Adu never left its side. When they sealed it, he wrapped it in his cleanest shirt, holding it like he'd once held Kemi. The ride back was silent. Adu cradled the box, cheek pressed to the wood. Aoife cried quietly. Even the Haradine investigators respected the moment. In Mud Lane, under the elder's watch, Adeniyi was buried in the community cemetery, a sunny slope with a view of distant hills. Adu chose a simple stone, Caerved deep, with just Adeniyi Adu 2000 daughter. Wife. Mother. Rest here. At the grave, Adu, guided by Aoife, placed Kemi's tiny hand on the stone. Adeniyi, he said, voice clear, your girl's home. Safe. Healthy. Her name's Kemi, worthy of praise, like your SCARF. She'll know her roots. Her grandpa. Even blind my heart sees. He pressed his face to Kemi's hair, then the stone. Rest now. Weary home. Kemi, sensing the weight, didn't fuss. She patted the stone, copying Grandpa. No wailing. Just quiet ars 25 years soft pain ending here. Adu's hunched spine seemed straight in the sunset. He stood there, Kemi in his ARMS, a Guardian statue. Aoife snapped a photo, the return, later called Thimage of the saga, blind grandfather, granddaughter, a daughter's grave. Trauma-faced. Memory laid to rest. Bloodline enduring. With Adeniyi buried, Adu's world became Kemi. Courts finalized it, Adu equals sole Guardian. Kingsley multiple life sentences. His empire seized. Some funds went to victims, community repairs. Mud Lane mobilized. They cleaned an old community hall, fresh paint, solid floors, new doors, a home for Adu and Kemi. Simple, but safe. Loved. Amina brought blankets. Akinku's son built a crib. Adu stopped begging. Instead, he told stories, Yoruba legends, history, wisdom. In the SQUA Rekid sat wrapped. His voice, rough but wise, renet him a new name, Story Grandpa. His lesson eyes blind, rt bright. Know your name. Your roots. You're not trash. Your seeds, grow your own trees. And Kemi. Thriving. Her bright eyes, just like Adeniyi's. Her first word not mama or dada, but pointing at Adu Zidantatu, babbling, dadi, dada in Yoruba means treasure, close to dad. Adu wept, clutching her. The tattoo Caerved in suffering was now her first symbol. Proof of blood. Flower in the ruins. New life, rising from SCA red EARTH. The images of Adu burying his daughter Adeniyi, and that haunting photo, the return, showing him holding Kemi while touching the gravestone, were like stones hurled into still water. The ripples spread far across Nigeria, West Africa, beyond. This was no longer just a tale of one man's revenge and redemption. It became bigger, a symbol of the dignity of the oppressed, the memory of the forgotten, and the unbreakable roots of culture in a modern world. Adu Zidantatu, once a privatesque became a national emblem of resilience. In Mud Lane, change came quiet but deep. Adu's home, the repurposed community hall, became a gathering place. Every afternoon, he'd sit on a stool outside, Kemi on his lap, surrounded by listeners. First, just kids, enchanted by his Yoruba tales of Eshuth trickster, Aladame Wreath creator, Ogunthwa Ryer. His stories ca Rai truth, how the weak outsame rt the strong, how goodness wins, how family endures. The children's eyes shone different, brighter than before. Then, adults came. Jobless youths. Stressed mothers. Even neighbors who'd once ignored him. They listened to his stories and to him calmly recounting his blinding, Adeniyi's fate, how he survived by seeing with his ERT. No dramatics. Just facts. But that quiet strength hit her righter than any scream. Kingsley called me trash, he'd say, but trash grows flowers. If you're here sees, your path is clear. He became Mud Lane's true elder, a leader rened through pain and wisdom. This awakening spread. With Aoife's relentless reporting, Mud Lane stopped bowing to bullies. When developers tried seizing land with shady papers, the community united. No violence. They chose Adu and elders as reps, backed by Aoife's research, media, and legal aid. At a public hearing, Adu, blind but unshakable, spoke of generations living on that land, of a Denise grave resting there. His mere presence was proof. The developers, under pressure, backed off. Mud Lane's first peaceful victory. Aoife compiled Adu's life into a book, Truth Seen Blind, Adu and Kemi. No fancy words. Just raw truth. It's sold out across Nigeria. Adu donated all profits to build Kemi's home, a shelter or the cemetery for abandoned, abused, or orphan kids. Food. School. Healing. Though old and blind, Adu visited daily, telling stories, singing lullabies, hugging children who'd never known safety. Kemi, tiny but bright, became their little teacher, babbling her details. Then culture came alive. Inspired by Adu, youth reclaimed their roots. Akinka's son, the carpenter, who'd built Kemi's crib, asked Adu to teach him Yoruba wood carving. Adu, though blind, felt the wood's grain, described designs from memory. The young man vet Edan-inspired pieces, traditional yet modern, selling fast at markets. Art preserved. Livelihoods made. Even tattoos transformed, not ink, but identity. Mud Lane's youth, especially girls, revived tie-dye and embroidery. They dyed cotton indigo, stitching Edan symbols onto head wraps, kala handkerchiefs. Not just decoration, defiance. A badge of pride. A middle finger to useless trash. Tiny Edans glowed on sleeves, hairpins, Mud Lane's new emblem, alive with fire. Adu, stroking Kemi's Edan-stitched headscarf, told Aoife, see Aoife, this ma RK once just my pain, vet in flesh. Now it's our song, sewn in cloth, sung in Herts, telling the world, we're not trash. We're Yoruba's children. We've got history. Stories. Coragetto live. His old tattoo, sunlit, looked deeper than ever. No longer just Kemi's dad. Now a community's rebirth. A culture survival. Memory passed down. Dignity awakened. Hope burning on right 4-way RD, forever, by generations anew. 5 rs pass like the Niger River, steady, unrelenting. Lagos rainy season still came, but Mud Lane was no longer the flooded, sewage-choked hellhole it once was. Community efforts, some government aid, and the spotlight from Kemi's home had transformed it. Tin shacks became brick houses. Drainage pipes were laid. Row alleys widened, paved with gravel. At the community squa, a vibrant Edan mural made by kids with painted tiles glowed under the sun. Nearby, the white walls of Kemi's home stood clean and bright, laughter spilling from its yard. One afternoon, after rain, the sky blazed blue. Towering clouds, gold-edged, drifted lazily. Sunlight drenched everything, wet rooftops, newly planted palms, children playing in the squa. The air smelled of EARTH and fresh grass. Under a sprawling kapok tree by Adu's home, shade pool thick and CL Adu sat in a worn but sturdy wicker chair. Time had read deeper lines into his face, his hair gone fully white. Yet his expression held a peace never known before. His faded cotton robe was clean, sleeves rolled up, the Eid tattoo on his left arm catching the light, while unbroken. 60-year-old Kemi de Root from Kemi's home like a sparrow, her flower print dress, a gift from Aoife, fluttering. Cheeks pink, damp curls clinging to her forehead. In her hands a perfect pink kapok bloom. Grandpa! Grandpa! Look! She shoved the flower into Adu's palms. The prettiest! For you! Adu's calloused fingers traced the petals, soft, fragrant. His smile lit up. Thank you, my little Kemi. So sweet, like you. He tucked the flower into his robe's collar. Grandpa, the sun's huge. Kemi squinted. SKYWA road rainbow. Rainbow. Adu looked up, though his eyes saw no colors. Kemi's. Excitement painted the ARC across the sky for him. Yes, he murmured, voice low, wise like his old tales. Kemi, Grandma used to say, stars shine brightest in the darkest night. Rainbows glow fiercest after the coldest rain. He pulled her close, her head against his chest. Remember, my little seed, no matter how hard the wind blows, how heavy the rain falls, or what anyone calls you, is a RMS tightened. You're not trash. You're a seed in the wind, growing your own tree. Your roots run deep all the way to Grandma's grave. All the way to here. He tapped his chest. Kemi nodded, small fingers clutching his robe. She studied his face, the flower on his collar, the distant rainbow, puzzling it out. Then, instinctively, her hand found his tattoo. Did she whispered. Her first word. Her purest truth, safe. Loved. Home. Ife approached. No longer the fiery young reporter but a seasoned editor. In her hands a magazine, its cover the return, blind grandfather. Granddaughter, a daughter's grave. The headline, 5 years later, from mud to oasis, a community reborn. She laid it gently beside Adu. Grandpa Adu, she said, voice thick with pride, they remember. You. Kemi. Mud Lane's story. Adu's fingers skimmed the glossy cover, tracing the photo's ridges. Aoife, thank you for remembering. Stories meant to be told. A pause. Now it's Kemi's turn to tell new ones. Sunset gilded them, grandfather and granddaughter, their shadows stretching long across the clean ground. Around them, Mud Lane lived, parents returning from work, pots clanging, kids shrieking with joy. At the SQUA, teenage girls giggled, showing off Edan-stitched head wraps. Adu held Kemi, still in the moment. He couldn't see this rebirth, but he heard it. Felt it. His tattoo, backlit by dusk, no longer felt like ink but fire, a flame kindled 25 years ago in blood and defiance, surviving storms to light his way home, Ignitia. Community's pride, and now, burning in the next generation's hearts. He nuzzled Kemi's hair, smiling. Rainbows fade. But sunlight always returns. And some things, blood, memory, love read into skin and soul, they're like the ancient life of West Africa itself, buried in darkness. Beaten by rain. Yet breaking through the light into forests off their own. The headline, when a billionaire called him useless trash, his tattoo shook a nation, found its truest meaning now. What shook the nation wasn't some secret. It was dignity trampled, silent, yet unbent, rising at last. And changing the wind.